This is CBC Vancouver News.
If you talk to the businesses, there's a resilience, there's a defiance, and people are wanting to find ways to power through.
How a massive street party is helping support local businesses amid rising costs and U.S. tariffs. Also, a man has been charged with second-degree murder after an alleged assault in Kelowna leaves one woman dead. And
their wage offer needs to be more substantial. We were having an issue too over banquet gratuities.
More than 140 hotel workers in Surrey have walked off the job after more than a year of failed negotiations. Hello, I'm Janella Hamilton. Hundreds of thousands of people packed into Vancouver's Khatsahlano neighborhood for a massive street party today. But as Shoria Chethri reports, amid the music, food, and festivities, organizers say the real message is about the importance of supporting local businesses amid rising costs and trade tensions.
It's one of Vancouver's largest free music and arts festivals. 10 blocks of West 4th Avenue buzzing with activity Saturday for the annual Khatsahlano street party.
There's just always so much energy and there's just so many people. The spirits are high.
It's just nice to see the community come together.
I really like the music. That was fantastic. I don't remember who was playing, but she was doing really well.
More than 60 performers took the stage with over 50 food trucks and nearly 700 vendors lining the streets.
It's the busiest day of the year, and it allows them to showcase what they've got going on. New stores, of course, that are new to the neighborhood.
Now, in its 14th year, organizers say the event is bigger than ever before.
I just walked through from 6 blocks down, and it feels a lot busier than usual.
Part of the reason, she believes, is a growing push to support local, especially in light of U.S. tariffs and growing economic pressures. The BIA says rising rents and post-pandemic recovery have hit small businesses hard, but the business community is pushing forward.
If you talk to the businesses, there's a resilience, there's a defiance, and people are wanting to find ways to power through.
This business owner says it's resilience that has kept her going.
It has been difficult. We used to own a store. I had a store in Chilliwack Mall over 10 years. I had a store in Marine Drive, and I also had a store in Fort Langley. But now I've sort of downsized.
She says the high cost of rent has forced her to relocate her business multiple times. Now based in Langley, she's been coming to Khatsahlano each year to showcase her Kenyan designs at the annual street party.
And it's really a good and a warm crowd to be able to showcase what we have.
She says community events like this help businesses like hers reach more people. Other owners agree.
It brings out people that don't necessarily come to Fourth.
The West 4th BIA says new store openings are up 8 in the last 4 months and vacancy rates are at the lowest in the last few years. Organizers estimate more than 225,000 people came out to this year's event. Shoria Chethri, CBC News, Vancouver.
The temporary relocation of the Nelson Farmers Market has some vendors upset. They say the move has led to a double-digit revenue loss. As Corey Bullock reports, the Creston Chamber of Commerce is urging city officials to reverse the decision, but the mayor of Nelson says the move is necessary for safety reasons.
The midweek market used to take place on Baker Street in Nelson's downtown core, but this year the city decided to make the move to nearby Cottonwood Park, where the market already takes place on Saturdays.
Last year at the market we had a very close near miss with a car and a human. So we really want to be mitigating any of those kinds of concerns.
She adds that there are a number of construction projects taking place downtown, making accessibility and traffic worse. The market sees vendors from all across the region, many of whom travel from Creston to sell their goods. And the Creston Chamber of Commerce says the move has caused a loss of revenue for its farmers because the park is harder to access and offers less exposure for farmers.
It's an average of 63% loss in sales.
Kip Cantrell, owner of Thistle Farm in Wendell, attends the Creston and Cranbrook markets on Saturdays and the Nelson market on Wednesdays. But he says that might change because since the move, his sales have dropped in half.
It is making it difficult for us to meet payroll. We have a crew of 5 that we have hired in the spring that are all there processing garlic at quantities that are matching last year. And so for us to manage that staff has been really difficult, and for making payroll without those sales in place.
Creston is located about 124 kilometers from Nelson, and the Cottonwood Park location is just a few blocks away from the previous Baker Street location, about a 10-minute walk. But Pitchinen argues the Cottonwood location serves a different demographic.
The Wednesday Farmers Market gives the visibility of people in town doing business, people working their 9 to 5, pop out, get their shopping.
She's urging the city to reverse the move, but Mayor Morrison says it's just temporary.
Plan right now is to review it at the end of the season. Again, I really want to stress it's about public safety.
She points to the tragic events of the Lapu Lapu Festival in Vancouver in April, saying that Cottonwood Park is ultimately a safer location. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
A man has been charged with murder after an alleged hit-and-run and assault in Kelowna on Friday. Just before 1 p.m., Mounties were called to a parking lot near Enterprise Way and Spall Road for reports of an assault with a weapon. 2 women were found seriously hurt. Police say one of them has now died, and the other is in hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. After a brief pursuit, police arrested James Plover. Today, he was charged with second-degree murder. Police say Plover knew the victim who died. He remains in custody, and his next court appearance is on July 10th. Anyone with information about Plover's activities leading up to the incident are being asked to contact Kelowna RCMP. Surrey police say a motorcyclist is dead after colliding with a vehicle near Crescent Beach.
Surrey Fire Service firefighters were on scene along with BC EHS paramedics, and sadly, despite their life-saving intervention, the motorcyclist, an adult male, has passed away.
Police say it happened around 8:45 this morning on Crescent Road near 132nd Street. The cause of the collision remains under investigation. Police are asking witnesses or anyone with dash cam footage to contact them. In Abbotsford, police were called to a rural home that was shot at early this morning in Sumas Prairie. Police say people were inside the home asleep when it happened. No one was injured, but officers say the residents were understandably shaken. Investigators are working to determine the motive behind the shooting. Anyone with information is being urged to contact Abbotsford Police. The family of a 10-year-old Langford girl with a fatal neurological disease met with BC Health Minister Josie Osborne last night, urging the province to reinstate funding for her treatment. Her mother says time is of the essence as her daughter's disease is progressing rapidly.
Really reiterated the time, so I would hope, she did say she is committed to moving those papers forward to the right people.
Charlie Pollock lives with Batten disease and was receiving treatment for her condition at the cost of about $800,000 a year. Last month, the Ministry of Health announced it was cutting off that funding after a review by Canada's drug agency found there was no evidence to continue coverage given the advanced state of Charlie's condition. Her mother says during the meeting she urged the province to reverse the decision but has yet to receive any answers. The Health Ministry was not available for comment. After more than a year of failed negotiations, 140 workers at Sheraton Vancouver Guildford Hotel began strike action today after failing to reach a collective agreement with their employer.
Their wage offer needs to be more substantial. We were having an issue too over banquet gratuities, the split on that. So it's primarily monetary at this point. We did resolve some non-monetary issues, but it's the money at the end holding things up here.
He says employees are asking for a wage offer comparable to other hotels in places like Richmond and Burnaby. The union says this is the second labor dispute at the property in 7 years, primarily due to low wages. Union members say they're open to further talks, but the strike will continue until a fair deal is on the table. In a statement, Sheraton Vancouver Guildford management says they remain optimistic that an agreement can eventually be reached, adding the hotel will remain in operation during any strike action and will keep guests informed of the situation as it progresses. Union Bay residents opposed to a ship-breaking business on the shores of Baines Sound on Vancouver Island are celebrating after word came out that the province had cancelled a Crown lease critical to its operation.
Somewhat vindicated by the work that's been done and the action that's been taken. Of course, this is a step. It's a big step, that we have the government saying this can no longer continue. Of course, we expect that certain things will continue.
In a Facebook post by BC Health Minister and MLA for Mid-Island Pacific Rim, Josie Osborne shared a decision from the province that says deepwater recovery has not demonstrated the level of regulatory compliance, operational responsibility, or environmental stewardship required to justify entrusting them with the use of Crown land to enable management and dismantling of end-of-life vessels. Given DWR's defaults, the province has determined and proceeded with the cancellation of the lease to protect the public interest.
Crown lease is basically what allows them to operate underwater and have access to the upland. So without that, they won't be able to utilize that space for bringing ships in, storing ships, and otherwise. It's early days right now, but I'm sure the province will be working with the operator to see how they deal with the remaining vessels.
He says regional district litigation against Deepwater Recovery for zoning non-compliance issues is continuing. The owner of Deepwater Recovery did not respond to request for comment. Still ahead, rescuers scramble to find missing summer campers after severe flash flooding in Texas. More than 40 people are dead, including at least 15 children. More on that story after the break. Northern Manitoba communities are being evacuated once again. Wildfires continue to threaten multiple areas, with hundreds being forced from their homes, some only having just returned. Brittany Greenslade has the latest.
Through the thick smoke, you hear the help before you see it. The sounds becoming all too familiar for people in Khatsahlano Cree Nation, who are being forced to flee wildfires yet again.
Everybody has to leave the community. It's not safe right now.
The chief says a new fire ignited and spread quickly, relentless winds making the fight nearly impossible. Sheila Flett and her husband watched their home burn, exhausted and distraught. She says she's unable to even speak.
I just feel emotional. The fire spread into the community. It destroyed about 7 homes.
This time, for some, there'll be nothing to come home to. People in the area, also known as Split Lake, were first told to leave the community May 30th. This video was taken by a firefighter who stayed behind. Most people were unable to return because the water treatment plant has stopped working. The roughly 175 who were there now told again to get out.
Our CMP are knocking on doors here again just to make sure everybody is out of their homes.
Meantime, nearly 600 people from Lynn Lake are also being flown out of their community. Many hadn't even unpacked. They say it's been a trying few weeks.
We're feeling pretty overwhelmed and exhausted.
Clint Farrow's family of 6 had only been home for 9 days when this evacuation order came down, and they were told to leave yet again.
I really miss home, but it doesn't really matter as long as we're safe and as long as they're taking care of Lynn Lake at the same time.
The mayor says lightning sparked a new fire. Hydro poles are at risk of burning.
It will leave the community and the neighboring community of Black Sturgeon Falls without power for the foreseeable future.
It's left hundreds in both communities waiting and watching from afar. Brittany Greenslade, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Search and rescue operations continue for communities devastated by flash floods in Texas. At least 32 people are dead and many more missing, with those numbers expected to grow. Steve Futterman has more.
In Texas, they are trying to simply grasp the enormity of the tragedy. The flash flood came without warning. Rain was predicted, but not this much and not nearly this fast. Officials estimate the Guadalupe River rose nearly 8 meters in just 45 minutes. Hundreds of people were trapped, including those attending a Christian summer camp for girls. It brought back memories of a similar flash flood in July 1987, which killed 13, including 10 teenagers on a church camp bus. Pictures today show what's left of Camp Mystic. Items inside the camp torn, tossed, and scattered. Virtually everything in the river's path was no match. Vehicles, trees, and even some homes were simply thrown into the flood waters. There have been stories of people barely finding a way to survive.
They said, you got to get out of here. So I got what I could and most of the valuables. My place is gone, though. It's gone.
One 22-year-old woman caught in the floodwaters was swept more than 30 kilometers from her campsite before grabbing onto a tree. Sadly, not all the stories have happy endings. U.S. President Donald Trump has been following the events.
We're working with the governor. It's a terrible thing.
Federal, state, and local officials are on the scene doing what they can.
When Texans face a challenge, we come together. We unite.
As the day progressed, it became clear that some of the worst fears of officials were coming true, and the number of fatalities is likely to rise.
Today will be a hard day. Please pray for our community.
In the days ahead, there is sure to be questions asked about why forecasters failed to predict such a violent weather event. And much of that focus is likely to be on the Trump administration's drastic cuts to the National Weather Service. When the cuts were made, many predicted there would be missed forecasts. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Los Angeles.
Gaza officials report 70 new deaths in Israeli attacks, and the U.S. is blaming Hamas for a grenade thrown at a controversial aid depot. But the Gaza spotlight is on diplomacy. The CBC's Kirtana Sasitaran reports.
A young man mourns over the body of his father and 3 brothers after Israeli airstrikes on a refugee camp in Khan Yunis yesterday. The United Nations Human Rights Office says 613 Palestinians have been killed within the span of a month in Gaza while trying to obtain aid. This young woman says her brother was killed while on his way to get a bag of flour for the family. He was killed by a bullet to his neck and died on the spot. Obtaining aid has become a threat of its own, with Gazans and aid officials navigating the risk of attacks.
And for 10 minutes, once the gates of that cage where the aid is scattered open, people, thousands, tens of thousands of people start chasing each other, muscling their way beyond each other. Many go back, obviously, unfortunately, in body bags.
But last night, word came that Hamas has provided a positive response to the latest proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza, a sentiment supported by U.S. President Donald Trump.
I'm very optimistic, but, look, it changes from day to day.
On Tuesday, Trump said Israel had agreed on terms for a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza and that the U.S. would work with all parties to end the war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu chaired a security cabinet meeting this evening. Families of hostages held in Gaza seek one thing.
You promised us that you would bring all the hostages back. Now is the time to do so. Accept the outline deal this evening.
Palestinians hoping a deal brings about an end to this conflict. She hopes a truce will be announced and the crossings eventually reopen. Hours ago, senior Israeli officials told local media Israel has decided to send a delegation to Qatar for talks on the possible agreement. This comes as Netanyahu heads to Washington on Sunday for talks with Trump. While the discussion should include the potential of a deal, other conflicts may also arise.
I think Trump expects to talk about Gaza, but Netanyahu really wants to talk about Iran, because as far as Netanyahu is concerned, the Iranian war is not over. The Iranian nuclear program, despite what the president keeps on saying, we obliterated and we decimated. Okay, that's great, but you didn't.
The delegation heading to Qatar would leave this weekend. Talks between Netanyahu and Trump begin Monday. Kirtana Sasitaran, CBC News, Toronto.
Here we have a live shot of Burrard Inlet facing the North Shore in downtown Vancouver tonight. I'll have your full forecast next. All right, it is time now to take a look at our weather for the days ahead. Let's begin with a quick peek at the current temperatures around the province tonight. Rain and a low of 9 in Prince George. Rain also in places like Kamloops, Kelowna, Golden, and Cranbrook overnight. 12 and clear in both Tofino and Victoria. Heading into tomorrow, Fort St. John, a chance of thunderstorms and a high of 24 tomorrow. Much drier in places like Kamloops and Kelowna, a high of 28 and 29, so getting much warmer in those areas. On the island, 23 and clear and sunny for tomorrow, and 19, so a little cooler in Tofino with a high of 19 for tomorrow. Here in Metro Vancouver, we are going to see 23 as our high for Sunday. That sun is going to stick around until Tuesday. We may see some showers beginning on Tuesday that will carry into Wednesday before that sun returns on Thursday. The Royal Canadian Navy has gathered its sailors, ships, and even a submarine for Fleet Week in North Vancouver. We stopped by for a tour.
Vancouver Fleet Week 2025. First day that we did tours, we had over 2,000 visitors on board. The sailors are the core of what we do, and they're all very professional and happy to talk to the public. Once the sailors start talking to the public, you can see their eyes light up when they get to talk about what they do. It seems to be a very popular event, and there is a lot of interest in coming on board.
And if you want to see those ships, tomorrow will be your last chance before they depart. That is your late news for this Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.